This is Jerome Corsi, and we've got a really interesting guest back with us today, Cregg Lund. Hi, Cregg. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Jerry.
Cregg is the author of this new book, which I helped him get into print. It's published by, we just got it into print. It's called Silcon Satan by Cregg Lund. And the subtitle is A Software Engineer's Narrow Escape from the Luciferian Elite's Satanic Control over Silicon Valley. Now, Cregg was a software engineer in Silicon Valley, and he was on the fast track to mega riches, which involved him necessarily becoming part of the Luciferian cult that rules Silicon Valley. And this book tells the truth about what goes on, the rituals, the satanic practices, and the dark lifestyle that you're either going to join in Silicon Valley or you're going to be bypassed. You'll never be a big player if you don't hook into the Luciferian nature of what Silicon Valley is all about. And the book's important because, look, a lot of it has to do with sex. A lot of it has to do with drugs and bizarre behaviors, rituals, baby killing and eating for their different blood that they can extract from the babies, feeling fear. And there's lots of just bizarre material in here. But the reason is it's not written to be pornographic, although some of the sections clearly read pornographically. But the point is, we can't defeat this, drive out the satanic nature, and it dominates Silicon Valley. It dominates Hollywood. It's all show business in New York. It's the elites, the moneyed elites, which are into this bizarre pedophilia, this sex trafficking. The P. Diddy's, the Jeffrey Epstein's are only the iceberg of what's really going on. Now, the value of what Cregg is, he's experienced it, and he's fictionalized it, but he's laying it all out here. And quite frankly, when you first encounter this book, the first part of it is your first reaction is going to be, I don't know if I can make it through this book. The second reaction is, I don't know if I can put it down, because it's compelling reading. And once you get past, I recommend you keep a Bible nearby when you're reading it. But again, we can't defeat what isn't brought out into the light. And what the Bible admonishes us to do is to cast light on the darkness. So, Cregg, with that kind of preface, why don't you kind of fill in what you're thinking? And Cregg lives largely in seclusion, and he's suffered a difficult life. This book is partly therapy for him to recover. And I don't know if recovery is entirely possible. Cregg, I don't know if these demons won't be around for a long time, or you never exercise them.
Well, I'm used to them by now. I know how to deal with them.
Well, give us some thoughts on this. I mean, you were there and you escaped, and what was it like?
Well, I walked into something. I want to make it clear that you can go to Silicon Valley and you can have a fine career. You can attend church every Sunday, and you can raise a family and never, ever know about any of this. The only difference between me and that guy is how far you could go, how far they're going to allow you to go. So I just wanted to make that clear, that because I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say, well, I knew you back then, and what are you talking about? And so I explained it to them, finally.
Yeah, I mean, people probably, in the everyday actions and interactions, they're not going to go around being satanic in the open.
No, and that's why symbols are so important. That's how they communicate. And after a while, when you see it and you keep seeing it, you get to the point where you can't not see it. Like I saw something from ICE today, 33,000, and I wish they wouldn't do that, because now I got to look into that. I want to believe that there was 33,000 arrests, but why did it have to be 33,000?
Well, 33 is one of the numbers that you point out is connected into the Satanism.
Yes. And I even have a little video on my website that I spent about 3 hours in number 3 coming up with 33s connected to COVID, and I came up with a lot, so many that it gets tedious watching them. You know, this guy was 33. There was 33 new patients. It's in article number 33. We have 33 treatments. There's 33. You know, just so to me, I know that this is them talking to each other. This is them.
It's signaling. It's secret signaling. It's
right.
If you know the code, you pick up that this is what's being talked about.
Right. So they know what to do with that one. They know that this is somebody part of somebody's agenda. You know, and you can take any criminal activity. I'm talking about from my this is my worldview, my skewed, peculiar worldview. You could take any crime on the street. I'm not talking about like the tweakers breaking windows so they can get their tweak, but any kind of real crime, professional crime, you know, drug dealing, bank robbing, and follow the money trail up. You're going to go through organized crime, and you're going to go through political corruption, but you're going to end up at some Luciferian agenda. Everything in my world boils down to some Luciferian's agenda. And all the Luciferians have the same, all these clubs have the same goal, and that's to impress Lucifer. And like we were talking about earlier, I'm not here to argue about who Lucifer is, like some people want to do. I'm talking about their Lucifer, their version of Lucifer. They have a version of Lucifer. They sent me to a class. I thought it was going to be like a Harry Potter type building, but it was just some office campus in Bethesda. We spent about 4 days with this gentleman, this decrepit old, explaining to us their religion, their story, and it's bizarre. I mean, but they believe it. It's a good story, but it's bizarre.
Well, the story is basically that Lucifer rules here.
Well, more than that, Lucifer and Yahuwah. I use Yahuwah because God is just as a description. It's not a name. Lord is a title. It's not a name. But anyway, Yahuwah and Lucifer are brothers. There's a greater God that we don't know about, that we don't see, that he apparently doesn't care about us. And Lucifer and Yahuwah are having this battle over what to do with humanity. So Yahuwah, the problem that they have, the problem that Lucifer has is that Yahuwah can look into our hearts. He knows who's loyal and who's not. He knows what we're doing. Lucifer can't do that, but he wants to be able to. He needs to know who his loyal. That's why loyalty. That's why you got to keep doing these rituals. You got to keep proving loyal. You can't look into your heart to see if you're still loyal. You have to keep proving it and reproving it and reproving it. And you know, his ultimate goal is A, he wants control over humanity, and B, he wants to kick Yahuwah out of the throne room. And they have, I mean, it sounds crazy.
Well, actually, I mean, you go to the Tower of Babel and you go, all these things have to do with somehow building a structure that allows Luciferians to reach and besiege or attack heaven to drive God out of heaven. Right. They really think they could build something or create a structure or do it through the metaverse of the computers or whatever to reach into God in order to destroy God.
Right. Their goal is to technologically punch holes, and they think they can do it. They believe they can do it, to punch holes into the other dimensions so that they can free their brethren from Hades. So this idea that when you die, you either go to heaven or hell that's false. That's not true. You don't go to heaven or hell. You go to Hades, or you wait. I mean, if you went to heaven or hell, then what's the rapture all about? Who's getting raptured? Everybody's already in heaven. So they believe that they can punch a hole into a dimension and free all their trapped brethren from Hades, all the ones that are going to hell, right? And the other thing they think they can do is punch a hole into God's throne room and take over. Now, it's weird. This doesn't sound crazy, but a long, long time ago, I was sitting with these guys, and everybody's getting, it was one of those parties, not the ritual parties, but one of the weird parties. These guys are getting drunk, and they started talking about Ferris wheels and mega Ferris wheels. At that time, there was no mega Ferris wheels, and how they were going to use those in this new technology that's been working on in Sweden to bring this technology into fruition. And then all of a sudden, all these mega Ferris wheels are popping up. So it looks like they're so far along that they believe they can actually pull this off.
Yeah, it's bizarre that they think that they can actually assail heaven
Mm-hmm.
and and
Fulfill
all
the 5 eyes.
and
Fulfill the 5 eyes.
what are the 5 eyes?
What is that? Deuteronomy. I'd have to look it up.
Yes.
It's when Lucifer says, I will exalt myself. I will take your eye. I will climb above you. I will be, Lucifer's
Yeah, I mean, and Lucifer is, of course, dark and evil in terms of, the rituals that are done, and the killing and the sex and the drugs and the perversion. It's all the upside down pentagram rather than the right side up pentagram. Everything is inverted.
Yeah, what's weird? What's weird is that Hollywood portrays these rituals as everybody's scared, but in real life, nobody's scared of the rituals. Nobody fears the actual rituals. Everybody's excited at the rituals. It's what they fear is either getting kicked out or getting found out. But the rituals themselves are not considered an evil act. They're considered a glorious act.
Yeah, it's I think I'm going to do one of the initial rituals and talk about that. But the entire initiation into this, you have a description in terms of the very beginning of the book, which is pretty shocking, about the Raj's, who's the central character, Raj's fictionalized. And a lot of the characters in this book, probably all of them, have counterparts in real life that are being fictionalized, and we're refraining from doing, specific identifications because, again, we don't want it's better that they remain fictional.
Yep.
And people can begin to figure out who they are if they want to, and that could be an intriguing aspect of reading the book. But you get these 4 elders. Describe them. The elders are so old, only 4 of them tonight. They appear more reptilian than human. Rotten, snaggle teeth, stringy white hair, yellow eyes, scaly skin. They reek of urine and baby powder. They sit whispering and snickering to each other at a large, ancient desk in a very dim office with ceilings so high they can't be seen. Something nameless and intentionally ignored by the elders flaps around in the dark corners of the ceiling, occasionally dripping a black goo which evaporates into wispy vapors before reaching the floor. I mean, it's a dark picture of this initiation ritual. And
those elders.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just say the elders in the book. Nobody ever sees those guys. You never even hear about them, but they're the decision makers. They're the ones that who drive the agenda. They're all over the place. You just never see them. They're if you saw them, you would just think it was some half-dead old man.
Yeah, I mean, it's another man stands stoically before the 4 elders. His look is traditional, corporate, but with a certain Hollywood flair, a style straight out of the up-and-coming high-tech industry of Silicon Valley, as his uppity attitude. The man is new money made by being in the right place at the right time in a new industry not yet fully understood. Ideas and wealth come and go overnight. He's learned to present himself as extremely confident, but under his custom, hand-tailored suit, he's on pins and needles, sweating for his life. He's known as Mr. Gotti. Tonight is a big night for Mr. Gotti, a night he's worked for years. One of the elders, the spokesman, takes a silver scepter from below the desk. The scepter is wrapped in a swath of supple black suede leather made from human skin. The spokesman removes the wrap and carefully folds it. He then removes the clear quartz sphere resting in the gold hand on the top of the scepter, replaces it with a hand-cut red gemstone, then kisses the red gemstone and presses it hard against his forehead until it makes an impression of what looks to be a goat head and the scaly skin between his eyes. He says, "Channeler, come here, if you please." Spokesman calls to a hidden man who's been standing in the shadows of the dark room. The hidden man is also dressed in a custom tailor suit. It was trademark black suede leather gloves and dark yellow tinted shooting glasses, which make his eyes look deep purple. He pulls a folded document from inside his coat pocket, unfolds it, gives it a quick read, and lays it down on the desk in front of the elders. Spokesman reads the document, holds up his hand to hush the whispers of the others. Mr. Gotti, the spokesman, says, "Our watchers have been submitted a favorable report regarding you. We know that you are what you're capable of. We believe you're capable of even more. Therefore, I'm happy to inform you that we intend to make you an offer tonight." Okay, so this is the beginning of the ritual. And what's the paper about? What's the offer?
That's the way a lot of the deals are made. I don't want to sound like a Corey Feldman and say the worst thing in Hollywood is pedophilia, but I don't have anything to do with it. I mean, I was part of those rituals. I was able to bypass a few just because I seem to be like I like to say is I kind of forced gummed my way through it a lot of times. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just there. But yeah, I mean, when you sign a contract, they do sign contracts. They do sign them, but you do sign away what you're signing is a commitment to loyalty, and they hold you to it. They'll hold you to it. I mean, that first signing, that first signing changes you so much that you'll never be the same person after that.
Well, in fact, what it ends up being, and I'm not going to read the more descriptive parts of it because,
Okay.
I don't really want to get everybody grossed out. But it ends up with this Mr. Gotti is being initiated, having to, strip off his pants, and he gets sodomized by these four guys.
Yeah, you're talking. It's a gravy ritual, and it's common in Hollywood as well.
And so the mixture of the fecal material and the semen and all produces a fluid with which the contract is signed.
Yep.
And the sodomy is not particularly pleasant or, in any way, it's painful.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. Because in a sense, it's kind of like it's a blood ritual of sorts. But it's
It's an initiation ritual, but it combines blood and humiliation, which is the blood and humiliation rituals are the key rituals.
And the subjugation, once you've submitted to this, once you've done it, and of course you portray that initially that Mr. Gotti's reaction is doesn't want to do it. And then it says essentially, he says, "I'm ready to sign, Mr. Gotti." Pulls out a pen from his pocket and holds it up. "This will do, right? The blood thing is a joke, right? Ha ha." And the answer is the contract is much bigger than ink. It binds you to Satan through us. The spokesman explains, "We have to sign it with your own gravy to make it binding." Gravy was Gotti's confused. "I thought you said blood." He said, "That's the hard part," Malcolm explains. "You sign this contract in a mixture of your fluids." Okay, Gotti's confused, not certain if they're joking. "Do I cut my hand and spit on it or something?" The elders and Malcolm snicker once again. "Do you really think it's going to be that easy, son?" the spokesman asks. "You must willingly offer us the fluids you sign with, including your own blood from your own body during an act of extreme violence, or it won't be binding. Satan wants a show of complete loyalty. You must prove your willingness to do anything for him. Tonight won't be pleasant for you, but good things have high costs," the spokesman explains. Okay, so then they explain what's really involved, and he decides to go ahead. And this is one of the more graphic scenes. There are many graphic scenes in this book. But the point is that it's and this is fiction, but this really happens, is the point.
All the time,
yeah. Yeah, and again, we go back to the fact that this is not the publicly recognizable. You go to Silicon Valley, you go to wine bars, you can have a pleasant dinner, you can raise children, you can go to church, not know anything about all this.
Mm-hmm.
But if in fact you're tagged as someone who can contribute, you're tagged as somebody who has a talent that they think will advance their Luciferian cause, and you get offered to enter this club, it is a open door to riches. In other words, the investment money is there, the projects they want done are there, you've got the talent to engineer them, you're placed on projects, and you're expected to produce results. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, yeah. And there's this misconception that you can go into Hollywood or you can go into Silicon Valley and announce that you're here to sell your soul for fame and fortune. And it doesn't work that way. A lot of women try, a lot of young women try that in Hollywood. It doesn't work like that. You're just going to get used. You're going to get taken advantage of. You're not going to get anywhere. They come to you. They're not interested in anybody that's looking for them.
Right. And they're looking for you for a particular reason, which is
Yes.
not just talent, but their ability to seduce you or to twist you into submission to this cult.
Yeah, but they're also looking. They're looking for a certain strength too. There's a certain, you can't be a pushover. I mean, I'm not a pushover. I did a lot of stupid shit, but you have to have a certain self-control. It sounds weird to say it in this context, but they're looking for a certain, type of personality that doesn't just go along to get along, or doesn't just, they want people who are again, remember, they don't believe they're the evil ones, and that's hard to wrap your head around, because we've been indoctrinated with this idea that the devil worshippers know that they're devil worshippers, but they don't. They think they're the good guys. They think that they have it all figured out, that we're confused.
They are privy to secret knowledge of how it's really put together.
Right. So they're looking for people with open minds, I guess is what I'm, someone who's open-minded enough to accept their reality. That's why they don't call him Satan or Lucifer, they call him Hasatan.
What's Hasatan?
I don't know. I think it's Hebrew. Right?
Yeah, it's H-A-S-A-T-A-N.
Yeah.
And that's throughout this. It is maybe Hebrew. I don't know what it is, but again, it's not a reference exactly to Satan throughout the book.
No.
But but the other part of it that's intriguing is that every one of the characters who gets into this has some, including yourself, had some experiences which are a flaw or a twisted just experience. I mean, your girlfriend in this, who's Sloane, who becomes your wife,
mm-hmm.
is I don't want to say she's a sex addicted, but she certainly has learned how to be sex manipulative.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And so when you're young kids, and you're growing up in a horse ranch, and you take her for a ride, and she shows up naked.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't a big deal.
Wasn't a big deal.
No.
And so therefore, but yet you describe in detail the seductive nature of what you were feeling with her, watching her and riding with her, and her sexual experience through the whole thing. And
it wasn't a big deal, but it screwed both of us up for life.
For life.
Yeah.
Because this immediately established not a reality that became a fantasy, a reality that became a twisted, young girl addiction, seductively, but the child sexuality, pornography, is a twisted part of the sexual reality of people who get into this cult. And it's not incidental.
No, and it's really not even important. It's just sort of assumed. It's a given that the sex and debauchery is sort of the ambiance of the room. I
Yeah, but it's a self-selecting into that predisposition. There's a fascination.
Well, when you're children, yes. I mean, in what the way it's supposed to work is that we're supposed to be shielded from that kind of stuff, not encouraged into it. And the way I grew up in the 70s out in California in this big horse ranch was, it was, you watch Sonny and Cher show, it's everything's encouraging sex all the time, to be sexual, to be sexy, to be provocative.
Well, even the older women on the ranch are seducing you.
Yeah.
And you're going along with it and participating. So, the development of a moral awareness in a child is a very important thing. And the normal child is going to, there's certain mechanisms in the body that trigger the wake up of your sexuality when you're very young, and that gets triggered. But it doesn't then it goes away for most children. But there are moments when that mechanism is getting triggered and you have kind of a vague idea of sexuality, which you don't understand at this age. And for most kids, they're a little bit frightening or a little bit strange, and they forget about it. They don't plug into it.
Or they get taught, it's, if they got good parents, they get taught, okay, this is something that you'll run into, but not now. It's, I mean, there's ways to teach kids, right?
You've got to teach kids morality. You've got, and at the same time, you can create a situation in which if the kid is predisposed to it. So, I mean, there's a certain, we're all built as fallen creatures, and we all have certain vulnerabilities. And the test, I think, of moral development, and it has a lot to do, again, with parenting and situation and how we're raised. But it becomes the responsibility of the parents to build a moral awareness in children of what's going to be, we call normal development, or development that's productive, and an abnormal development, which is going to go down these paths. So once you've had that experience with a girl at young ages, you get desensitized to some other experiences that you want to pursue.
Right. And they know these guys, these entities have been watching us for thousands. I hear people talking about this gal was possessed and they gave the demons sex. Demons don't have sex. They don't feel, they're walking around horny and hungry and thirsty, and they can never get satisfied, right? But they've been watching us long enough, and they know enough about us to know that sex is extremely important, and they can use that as leverage, and they do. That's their primary wedge into anybody's life. Start with a little bit of sexual offerings, especially the forbidden kind.
Yeah, and that's why you see so many of the people who, today, when you start taking a look at the list, and of course, we're still having trouble getting a hold of Jeffrey Epstein's list, and Jeffrey Epstein's list is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, you'll never get it.
You'll never get it, and if you did ever get it, the list of people who would be on it would be shocking, and especially the repeat customers. Now, we know some of them. We know the Clintons were deeply involved in all this, but and again, when you get P. Diddy, you begin to find out more, and the truth is, you get a network of people who are in these behaviors, so that sex and drugs and orgies and even snuff orgies where somebody is killed in the process on stage to heighten everybody's excitement. These are, in a moral sense, these are evil, because this is the dark side. This is the side of human beings that become ultimately destructive. When you pulled out of it, at some point you must have realized that you were losing your soul.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
At some point you just had enough of it.
Yeah.
Which means you lost everything. You lost all the riches. You were thrown out. You're abandoned with nothing. Your credit cards won't work. You're thrown essentially away in a situation where you have no recourse to find any help.
I really believe, I don't want to sound arrogant or like I'm special, but I really believe that I didn't get out because I wanted to. I got out because y'all wanted me out. Y'all snatched me out of there.
Well, we need somebody to tell the story. And so maybe God pulled you out of it. Maybe God created you to be pulled out of it to tell the story. Because if somebody doesn't escape this and tell the story, it remains hidden. And then most people would say, this can't possibly be true. That what's in it just cannot possibly be true until you realize that it is.
You can look around and realize it's true. You don't have to read my book. If you look around, if you look around with open eyes, you'll start seeing what I see.
You'll start seeing the symbolism, and you'll start seeing the hidden messages that are in advertising, or that are in movies, or that are in, people dress and all the rest of the things.
One of the problems that we have is that everybody wants to give their favorite Luciferian celebrity a free pass. They want to say, no, not him. He would never do that. Not them. To me, that's like saying, not all of those letters from the Prince of Ethiopia are fake. There's got to be at least one that's real, right? To me, they're all guilty at some level. Maybe not all at the same level, but we have to get over that, because all it does is delay everything. When everybody keeps giving somebody a free pass, it just slows everything down. It's harder. It makes it harder for people like me to convince others that no, this really does go on. If somebody stops and says, well, not him, it can't be him, and then you got to stop and say, okay, well, let's unpack all this, let's figure it out, and it's just a delay.
Well, the point is that this twisted idea, the worldview that Satan is, the brother of God, and all this strange, bizarre thinking they have, is rejected in the Bible very clearly. Once you learn to see how the Bible is really communicating that it was Satan thrown out of God's kingdom because Satan couldn't be God and wanted to be God, lacked what it took. It could only be one. And the jealousy, the evil intent starts with the hatred of God, the hatred of life. So I'm particularly pleased you're starting to do the illustrations, and Chris is showing some of these on. We're putting the illustrations on, our website. They're on your website, siliconsatan.com, and they're on corsination.com on your page. We're show people how to navigate this. And you're writing the second novel, which is being serialized with different, chapter by chapter. We're publishing on corsination.com. You're a columnist with us. Occasionally you'll write a column about more analytic, not necessarily part of the novel, analyzing current events or issues that are on your mind.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity too.
Well, one of the things you and I, we've been at this, working together in this for 6 years.
Yeah, a little longer.
Maybe a little longer. And you've quit. You've turned against me. You've been, and then all through it, I just realized that this was part of your healing process. And so I never took any of it particularly seriously, because I saw the ability to get a book like this written and to have a series of them. Now, I don't want it celebrated. I want people to understand the evil consequences of this, where it ends up, the destruction of souls, the dark nature, the killing, the violence, the absolutely dark part of this is frightening, as it should be.
I could write a book on what it was like writing this book. I mean, just writing this book was an adventure.
I'm sure it was. In fact, you ripped it up and destroyed it at one point.
I did.
Yeah, you pay consequences. You've been attacked. You constantly have to. These demons will chase you and hunt you down, and they don't want this exposed.
No.
But if we are going to create a society in which we have moral awareness, which extends down to procreation sex being for procreation, procreation having responsibilities to raise children in a moral environment, which is not going to happen accidentally. You have to introduce the children to God, have to introduce the children to religion, have to teach a child not to lie. Now, a child is born with an awareness of God, but it has to be reinforced or it'll be lost.
Yeah, remember all those the Dr. Spock books? That's kind of the way I was raised. Was just let the kids do whatever they want, and they'll learn their own consequences.
Yeah, no strong moral guide.
Right.
Those and the parents and adults around you were not particularly moral or nice people. They were not even fully formed as human beings. I mean, I sometimes read sections of this in the ranch, and it's like everybody is in the room together, and nobody's relating to anybody.
It's like most of the men out there were kind of stuck in the penal phase of achieving manhood. I don't mean the prison phase. I mean they're stuck in the sex. As a man grows, and most men get stuck right there in that sex phase, and they never
emerge beyond it.
Yeah, they never evolved, and that's the way most of the men out there were.
At least in your experience.
Yeah.
I mean, others who grew up in the similar environment and had more of parents with a moral awareness did not have their children turn out the same way and weren't the same way themselves.
Yeah, like Corin, my wife, she didn't have sex for the first time until she was 17. By the time I was 17, I'm not gay, but I'd had sex with more men than she's had her entire life.
Yeah, and it was not unusual.
No.
It's
looking back now, it was horrible, but at the time I didn't know. I didn't know.
It's part of the seduction of evil is that it makes you think that this is normal, that this is the way things are, the way things should be, and it has a great elevation of your own ego, that you're in charge, that you're the master, you're the god of your world. Mm-hmm. And what we see it, if the American public is going to have to recognize, and we're in the process of this awakening, that the government has lied to us virtually from the beginning. The founding fathers had a moral sense, and they were right. They were creating something for only a group who believed in God. Well, it didn't take very long for the demons to show up. Mm-hmm. And by the time we've begun to realize today, now the Kennedy assassination, we still can't get all of the. Pam Bondi has still not released everything. It was promised immediately, still not released. So once the people who want to change things get into power, others show up and say, well, you can't do that. Look at the consequences. What if people could know that Lyndon Johnson was in on the planning of JFK's assassination, knew about it, that the CIA killed Kennedy, or that 9/11 could have been prevented, but we decided to let them attack whatever we decided, but CIA decided we have a stake in this, and so therefore Building 7 comes down even though it wasn't hit by an airplane. The dark nature of the CIA. I caught HSBC money laundering billions of dollars to the drug cartels. We are the drug cartel. You don't tell me that we were running fentanyl on the border from China and the CIA doesn't know about it. The CIA is participating in it. That we keep, Ukraine. It wouldn't. They allow. It's one of their businesses. It's a dark business line. It's their dark fund. We have 300,000 children cross the border unaccompanied, and they disappear. You don't think the CIA knows where they are or where they went? How they get into sex trade? Where do the children pedophiles come from that these monsters depend upon for their recreation?
Yeah, well, if you look at their ultimate goals, it looks like a really nice world for them.
They get everything they want.
Right. It's just like their worldview is Hunger Games.
Yeah. And some of the dark literature that's written and has been written over the centuries has understood from the inside the darkness, which is what you've done. And now the value of that is to cast the light in the darkness where we started. So you can look at Hollywood and you can see the symbols, the secret meanings. You know, you go back into the Disney cartoons and see in the 1930s satanic symbols.
Yeah, and so one thing I'm trying to stress to people is pay attention to this. Pay attention to all these symbols. Pay attention, and you'll start. Once you start paying attention, you'll see them more and more. You know, the more you see them, the more you see them.
And as soon as they come out, okay, so Pizzagate and John Podesta and all the paintings that he has in his home of these little boys and little girls and all the references, you know, which is secret language. And of course, once it's disclosed, and Assange made those emails public, they say, "Oh no, you all." They ridicule us for thinking that this could happen. We become the ones who are ridiculed.
Yeah. So what people need to understand is the rule of method revelation. That's one of so Yahuwah's throne room is a courtroom, right? And it has court rules just like any other courtroom, and you have to follow the rules or your case gets thrown out. One of the main rules is the rule of method revelation. Yahuwah follows it strictly. He tells us everything he's going to do before he does it. So does Lucifer. So you can, if you know that, then you can start seeing why, and then you start to understand why are they making these movies? Why did they make that movie about where they're blatantly showing you baby sacrifice, baby devouring? Why would they do that? Why are they? Because they have to. They're required to.
Eyes wide open movies. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
And it's signaling. Book of Revelations is the signaling. But it's a signaling of judgment. It's a signaling of, you know, that God does rule. It's that these perversions are destructive. They're, you know, a child will be taken from their parents when they're dependent upon their parents for development, for food and all the rest. And a child is then subjected to sexual abuse, which they don't understand. And it's truly abusive. It's a dark reality that one would ever do that to a child.
I can't even, I have a hard time just wrapping my head around the whole idea. What are you that you desire that?
And that's where the the good and evil, the Bible, the fundamental moral compass has to start developing. You've got to say, I'm going to reject evil. And I'm not going to go down that path. But it's become so pervasive that people around the world are going to have to realize that we've allowed this evil to dominate for a long time. And it will continue to dominate unless we recognize it and eradicate it. And that's why I say God always wins. And the book of Revelations ends with judgment. It ends with the court of eternity deciding, this experience has consequences. And the consequences are eventually judged.
Well, speaking of judgment, anybody who's in a situation such as I've been, who would see this. And I'm not one of those who says, I hope there's one. I hope there's 1,000. I want 1,000 people to see this and say, oh, he got out, I can get out. I'm not looking for just one. I'm looking for a lot of them.
And to renounce it, and to make it public.
See, for a long time, I thought I was so deep there was no way I could get out. I thought that, I've totally screwed up. I'm stuck here. I'm never getting out of this. And I'd go along, I'd go along, and then something would happen. But you can get out. Yahuwah is a very, very forgiving God. If he forgives me, he'll forgive you. You can get out.
Okay, now I want to kind of wrap up and show people some things on the website. So,
okay. All right,
Chris, let's do this together. Chris. If we go to the Corsi Nation website, you'll see we've redesigned it. We've gone back to my main flagship. So, Chris, if you go back to the homepage.
By the way, congratulations on.
We put a lot of effort in making this be more dynamic and to be more user friendly, as they say, more a current website. So as you scroll down, you can see we've got various of the podcasts that I'm doing, and we're able to show you in different categories the kinds of content we're covering, so you can follow and track it, including my Substack. And then the two columnists we have right now, Mike McCormick, who has done this book on the an almost indescribable evil, describing the Obama administration perversion of the Catholic Church for the LGBT agenda. And then Silicon Satan with Cregg Lund. And in fact, here, this Belly of the Beast is one of the articles he's writing about contemporary issues. It may or may not become part of the novel, but you can see that we've got Corsi Nation podcasts, which are part of my daily podcast, and also Swiss America. I'm focusing on Swiss America because I think the gold is going to go to $5,000-$6,000 an ounce within a very reasonably short period of time. I think we'll have a global crash. And then further down, we do the God's Five Stones and the voter integrity, which I'm deeply involved in, and the Anti-Globalist Manifesto. I think that's going to become a future development that'll build starting later in 2025. But we've written this book. I've done a lot of work with Archbishop Vigano, and he is articulating probably the strongest, most comprehensive moral analysis from a God point of view of the evil we're dealing with. And so, Silicon Satan's exploration of the evil, and Archbishop Vigano is an exploration of explaining the evil in terms of the Satan's hatred of God, Satan's determination to the fascination with death, fascination with negativity, destruction, which is what it ultimately comes down to in systems like Marxism and socialism and LGBT. Is how exciting this is, LGBT. We ought to celebrate all these different sexual perversions and put them on the pedestal to be admired. Transgender, and then necrophilia, and who knows what's next. And so therefore, the bizarreness of it, the fundamental image of Satan is, Baphomet, and going back into the true Jewish religious view of the Tarot, not the magic Tarot, but the true version is really a bizarre character, half goat, half human, and laughable. Not really frightening, laughable, bizarre. And so, the children, for instance, will say, "Mommy, why is that man wearing a dress?" The child can see it. That's the whole emperor's, the parable of the emperor's, clothes. The emperor wears no clothes, and a child recognized it. Whereas the adults couldn't see it that way. Conditioned to see evil as normal. Well, that we become that way, and so therefore, I think if you go back to the website for a minute, I want to make one more point, and that is I've encouraged Cregg on this new novel also to form illustrations of it, so you can see it visually. I ultimately think this could be, a movie, but it'd have to be done as a movie that wouldn't induce people to think of this as attractive. But these illustrations do bring to life the visualization the novel encourages.
Yeah, I'm currently cutting my teeth on a lot of the software for creating animations, but what I'm running into is just a tremendous amount of censorship. They won't let you do what they don't want you to do.
They don't want you to use this to expose the Satanism.
Exactly. But one encouraging thing just recently happened is that they're dismantling the Department of Education, which means that children will start reading books again. I don't really want them reading my book, of course, but children need to start reading again. Get the Department of Education out of the way and start handing them books, and the culture will change.
And get the books in their hand and not be pornographic or LGBT oriented.
Right. The old classics. Like,
Susie has two daddies. Susie has two mommies.
Yeah. How about Huckleberry Finn?
Yeah, right. Going back to some fundamental moral literature that
Grapes of Wrath,
there's plenty of great literature.
Yeah.
And the great literature is always, fundamentally the hero, the story of the hero, someone who faces a great challenge and overcomes it at great cost.
Plus, there's something very comforting in a human way about holding a book and reading a book. Sitting under a tree and reading a book. I don't even like doing Kindle. I like having a book in my hand.
I do too. I'm very much paper oriented.
And I think children these days are missing out on that whole thing.
Well, a child before they speak can drive an iPad, and no one. Most parents are unaware of some of the subliminal programming that's going on and what they're being shown.
Yeah.
And
anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
So there's quite a bit on the website. I am encouraging the people to really deeply get into understanding this, because if we don't expose this with the light, we'll never get rid of it. And once
I get going, there'll be a lot more content out there. I just have to get ramped up a bit.
Well, you're beginning to see that the value to you, even personally. I mean, there's got to be tremendous resistance and tremendous saying, well, I have no audience. Nobody's going to read these books. I'm not going to be known. Well, don't worry about that. There'll be plenty of people reading these books and talking about them, because it is meant to be exposed, and it's meant to be seen. God is going through another great awareness and awakening of the human population,
mm-hmm.
to get us to a new spiritual level of insight and perception as to who we are and what this reality is all about. And this reality is not about Satan. It's about a higher level of perception in our ability to share God's existence. And God has gifted us that with life. And it's not meant to be thrown away or abused or mocked in these bizarre rituals. So
yeah, and isn't it interesting that the enemy has all the resources, all the wealth, all the money, yet in the end we win?
Yeah, it's the truth. The lies are legion, and truth is singular.
Mm-hmm.
And truth is not hard to perceive, but is extremely difficult for a human being to live. And so therefore we're surrounded by lies, and the truth telling takes great courage. But again, that's the way God meant it to be, because achieving these higher levels is not without going through growth and development of your own soul.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to reach a higher level of perception without having. These are the true stories of heroes. I mean, read Joseph Campbell, What Makes a Good Story. It's that someone who's flawed still succeeds by overcoming the flaw to achieve something great. They reach another level. And it's Greek comedy and tragedy realize this, that the same event is at one side tragic and humorous, it's comic and tragic. And it has to do with whether the people are able to, despite their flaws, still achieve something of greatness. That has to do with mastering your flaws. And I think, you've escaped this and now are going to go through different stages of, enthusiasm and reluctance about being public. And I expect that we'll see you fade and disappear from time to time.
Yeah.
And when we're back, we'll get you on and do interviews. And we'll flesh this out more. And we're going to begin, tell Corinne to pick some passages here for us to talk about, because I want to start. Your wife probably knows this book better than you do by now.
She does.
And so tell her to give us some sections to talk about, and have her develop a discussion outline for being able to present this book.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so this is Dr. Jerome Corsi. We've been interviewing author Cregg Lund with a very important book, Silicon Satan. It's now part of the Corsi Nation website. He's a columnist, And we'll be doing many more of these interviews. And we're going to be exploring this dark world in detail with the intention of casting light on it so the evil can be cast back into the darkness. God bless everyone for listening to this and for exploring this with us. May God protect everyone who ventures down this path to be strengthened and enlightened by it, not drawn into the seduction. And in the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. Thanks for joining us, Craig. We'll be back with more. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. Thank you for joining us. God bless.